We just landed on the moon in the Lambo, taking pictures with the zoom and the angle. We'll be coming back to you with the samples. Our predictions coming soon with a halo. We just landed on the
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Sunday night Token Metrics crypto conference call. This is the mother of all Sunday night crypto conference calls. We have been in the drawing board all day long. And here's how we're going to present it to you. We're going to start with history because that's going to help cover what just happened. Okay. And then we're going to cover, based on that, what you should do next. Okay. So the Chinese president has saved crypto, right? All kinds of interesting little posts all over Twitter. The guy's a hero. Well, you know what, folks? This has happened before, okay? It didn't turn the Chinese president into a pop culture hero, but it's happened before. And the name of the game is, what happens when you push the Chinese too far, okay? Normally they come in and they react big. So, a little bit of history. Back in the Korean War in the 50s, it was the Americans and the South Koreans fighting against the North Koreans who were backed by the Chinese. And the American army was led by this storied, macho general with a straw pipe who was really a famous warrior. He was legit. His name was Douglas MacArthur. And the Chinese told the American government, don't cross this particular line on a map. It was called the 38th parallel. Okay, just don't go across that line and we'll be good. Well, Douglas MacArthur was not a big fan of communists, and he was like, you know what? We're not only going to cross the 38th parallel and move into North Korea, we're going to go all the way to the Chinese border and knock on your door. And guess what? That is exactly what they did. And the American army just cakewalked itself right through North Korea. They were sitting in tents in their camps going, wow, this is going so well. We're going to have this whole thing packed up and we're going to be home for the holidays type thing. And then guess what? They woke up one morning and they were staring at 300,000. Let me say that again, folks. 300,000 Chinese soldiers, okay, had amassed on the Chinese border and poured into North Korea. Some of those soldiers, it was the winter. Some of them were armed. Some of them weren't. Some of them had winter gear. Some of them had tennis shoes on. And they blew whistles and charged at U.S. Marine machine gun nests. So when the Chinese meant business, when the Chinese were like, excuse us, but we're over this, they threw everything that they had, everything at the Americans. And we came back behind the 38th parallel, and today, that's why we have North and South Korea. Now, this story is really old. If you're a crypto guy or gal, you may not have heard it ever, but it's really relevant to what just happened, like really relevant. So Donald Trump and the president of China, two really strong, two really adamant guys, right? They're tough guys, both of them. Now, you don't have to like or not like either one of them, but you have to understand that this is a repeat of what happened between the famous American general and the famous communist president of China back in the 50s. Donald Trump woke up one morning and said, we're sick of the Chinese and we're going to start leaning on them in a trade war. All of a sudden, the Chinese president woke up one morning and was like, you know, oh my God, this guy Donald Trump is a nightmare. You know, every day he's giving me a hard time. You know, every day. So he put up with this for how long? A year, right? With Donald Trump just giving him the business every day, right? And then all of a sudden, okay, this impeachment thing started. So Donald Trump kind of was on the defensive, and the Chinese president had a chance to do something. He had a chance to do what Mao Zedong did in the 50s, which is to send a message that we're done. We're over this. We're over you. this time, it wasn't weapons, it was crypto that he's using to get back at Donald Trump. So let me build that out for you. So the Chinese are over it, and they want to give Americans the business. They want to give Donald Trump the business. How do they do it? Well, let me explain. A couple days before this Chinese announcement came out, there was an article in the paper about how Trump, and believe it or not, the guy who was my former boss or head of the firm, Goldman Sachs, Gary Cohn at the time, who was advising him, they came up with the idea to allow Bitcoin futures at the CME to come out. So that would be a way to introduce sellers into the market at a time when Bitcoin was at a mania phase. So when they introduced the futures contract, it would allow for both people who wanted to sell or make bearish bets, or even the Fed, to come in and literally crush Bitcoin and stop the bubble. Now, why would they want to stop Bitcoin? Why would they crush it? Well, because Donald Trump wants everyone focused on stocks, right? They want the stock market to go up, not crypto. They want the dollar to be the world's reserve currency, not crypto. So the Americans were like, wow, aren't we smart? We put a whole bunch of pressure on crypto. And I saw this article and I'm like, oh my God, they're trying to crush it again. They're going to try it again. Well, guess what? 2 days after this article hits, the Chinese president comes out and makes this very unusual announcement. And I don't believe in coincidences at all. Okay, he comes out and goes, we want to dominate blockchain. What a weird thing to say. Blockchain is like, I don't know, it's like a database, right? It's like saying, we want to come out and dominate Excel. Okay, what he really meant was, we want to have the digital renminbi, and we're going to be pro-crypto. We're not going to let our people use it, but we're going to try to undermine the dollar through a different mechanism, okay? And we're going to give Donald Trump and his friends a headache by getting everybody in crypto worldwide all pumped up and excited, okay, for the rest of this year and the rest of next year. Because now all they have to do is get on the tape and say, hey, blockchain, cool. Next thing you know, Bitcoin, crypto is flying, okay? So it's on in crypto, thanks to the Chinese, because they got tired of trying to buy all the world's gold and eventually let that somehow weaken the dollar, okay? They just were like, we got to do something now, okay? And what better way to get everybody going now than effectively say, hey, we love crypto. We don't know what we're going to do with it yet, but we're into it and we want to be big players. All right. So the Chinese have done what they did in the 50s. They've just basically checked the Americans, checked Donald Trump, and now we're heading for like a showdown at the end of the month. So I don't know whether you know this or not, but when the Chicago Mercantile Exchange CME futures, right, that's what was allegedly created to stop the Bitcoin rally from 2017. We have expiration coming up at the end of the month. All right. And when you have expiration coming up, you know, that's kind of Donald Trump or the Americans or the Fed's chance to respond and say, you know, you guys have had your fun. Okay. So we're headed for this huge point, right? Either the Americans stop crypto here, okay, or crypto is just going to explode. So they've got one shot to stop it. All right, one shot to see who's going to win the game, the Americans or the Chinese. Okay, so that's how we're seeing the world. Now let's try to jump into some charts and we'll give you some navigation that'll help you out. Okay, now I want to do one thing first. I want to give everybody out there who's into altcoins a message that for the first time in a long time, it may actually be a good idea to jump into shitcoins. Yes, you heard that right. Shitcoins have broken a major downtrend line, okay? And if you look at this chart right here, this is altcoin market cap from coinsignal.trade, okay? This, to me, looks like a breakout in, the smaller parts of the crypto market. In other words, I think the Chinese, for better or for worse, have turned on the speculator button, okay? And like I said, the Americans have got 10 days to put a stop to it, all right? It's that simple. So right here, we're looking at Bitcoin, okay? And I think the line in the sand and the new 38th parallel is going to be right here at 9,700, okay? 9,700 is the 38% retracement of this down move, okay? So even though it's been an unbelievable move, okay? It's been an unbelievable move. Really, all it's done is go back 38% of the move from 13,000 to 7,000. So it's a big deal. It's earth-shattering, but it's probably going to give the Americans an opportunity to push back at Bitcoin. Okay? Now, speaking of Bitcoin futures, all right? As it turns out, this contract hasn't been around for a while, right? So it is amazing that the 200-day moving average, that's the black line right here. It's amazing how that acted as support. Okay. That's not something we saw coming, honestly. Okay. It was a moving average on the futures contract that turned out to be the bottom. Now, in Bitcoin futures, we've noticed that when there's a giant gap like the one that there is now, okay, that frequently that gap gets filled, or there's an attack of that gap of some sort, okay, right here, okay? So every time there's this huge move where, the spot Bitcoin moves faster than the futures contract can keep up because of openings and closings, Bitcoin futures actually, or Bitcoin, comes back down. So what's our point? Our point is, we think you can be patient here. We think you want to buy dips. I don't know. That to me seems clear. We think you can buy at 8,600 aggressively. If this gap gets filled, or if there's some sort of like flash, oh my God, the way there were these flash, oh my God, say right here, right? That's a pretty big one right there. Okay. And this was pretty big too. Okay. So if there's this downdraft, okay, we think you can grab it. Okay. We also acknowledge that, Bitcoin may just sit here right around this 9,700 level for a couple days. We actually think that that's the most likely scenario. So you might get a gift and get to buy it $1,000 lower, okay? Or it can just sit here. Either way, we think we're entering a period where, you want to start really accumulating, okay? It looked like it was going to hell in a handbasket. Now I think the Chinese have changed the game, and the Americans have got 2 weeks, 10 days, maybe, to stop this. And if they don't, it's all going to take off. Okay. So looking at Ethereum, I think you guys know how I was looking for this to lead the market. It hasn't. And it's really the only thing that gives me pause. Okay. I mean, this looks like you can't even tell this event happened looking at the Ethereum chart. Nothing happened. Okay. Litecoin is kind of the same thing. Nothing happened. Nothing. If anything, they're selling Litecoin. all right? And they're moving more towards alts. So what's the bottom line? The bottom line is the Chinese have changed the game. The Chinese have come in and challenged Donald Trump. They have said, we want to change the world with crypto. We want to undermine you and the dollar. All right. So here's what I expect. I expect Donald Trump to push back. I expect the Americans to say, really? So you thought we were just going to take this lying down and let you embarrass us with Bitcoin? All right. The Google searches alone on Bitcoin after this move, no doubt got the president's attention. No doubt. So they're going to come out and they're going to say something. They're going to try to do something over the next 10 days. And that's going to give you the buying opportunity, or that's going to give you the signal as to whether or not this is for real. And my guess is there's going to be a scary dip, all right? And you want to close your eyes and grab it, okay? So something is going to go down between now and the time that the CME futures expire. There's going to be a dip, okay, or a range. You want to grab it and see if it goes higher, right? And bet that this is like a game-changing thing where, you know, the rebellion against the dollar is on. So the Chinese president is not a hero. It's actually a communist despot, all right? But what is on is a challenge to the dollar and the idea that we don't have to sit around with this currency that doesn't work for us anymore, right? So you buy the dip, not because China said something to get it going. You buy the dip because everybody just woke up to crypto, okay, as the alternative to the dollar, okay? And it happened on a grand public stage when everybody was leaning kind of negatively on crypto. So it had this huge psychological impact, which is why we're advocating grabbing it on a dip. All right, that's it for Sunday night. That's what we came up with in the war room. Good luck out there. Stay safe. Have a good night.